Hey guys, let me do a mic check real quick. If you can hear me, just type something in the chat box. Just somebody say, "Hey, we can hear you loud and clear. We can see you good." Just audio check and video check, if you don't mind. Just say, "Hey, yeah, we can see you and we can hear you." Okay, we'll give people just a few minutes to get in. Give it a couple more minutes, then we'll get going. So, Ivan, I did this for you, just so you could see me. Okay. The only reason I added my mug onto this is just so you could see me, Ivan. So, this is all for you. Hey, I'm going to mute my mic. I'm using a different program than what I normally use. So, I'm going to mute my mic. I just want to test and make sure this does mute it. So, I'm going to mute it and then let me know if I muted it correctly. Okay, very good. Just wanted to make sure that was my mic button, just in case I got to scream at my dogs or tell my kids to settle down. All right, so let's go ahead and get started in this. Hey, just wanted to. It kind of feels weird talking to you for an hour and a half and you not having the ability to at least see me. So, and I know there's different stuff out there like Zoom and stuff like that. I just find YouTube to be a more of a universal way to communicate to people. I know everyone has Zoom right now, but I don't want to. Again, I know you're using it in other classes, but I kind of favor YouTube. I just always kind of been with YouTube, so that's what I kind of favor, and it kind of gets our job done. Now I've made a way where you can at least see me and see my reaction to stuff, and still be able to kind of work through everything as well. Okay. So I'll kind of be here the whole time. And if you have any questions, feel free to type into the chat box. And let's go ahead and get going today. Okay, so we made it to... okay, yeah. So actually, are there any questions over 4, 9, or 12. Remember, I gave you those as your assignment. Are there any questions over 4, 9, or 12? Any questions over those before we get going? Hey, good to see you, Andrew. I'm glad everything's working now, man. If you are ready to move on, give me a smiley face. Give me some kind of smiley face or something in the chat box to let me know you're good. You don't have any questions over 4, 9, 9 or 12. Hey, no worries, Molly. Thanks for making it over. All right, I'm seeing that everyone is good for 4, 9, and 12. So let's go ahead and jump here to number 13. All right, so number 13, and we're just working 13 through 25. And then I will send you guys out the schedule for next week. And it's going to be a little bit different than what we've done the past 2 weeks. And that's just the simple fact because we're ready for a test now. So we just need to finish 13 through 25, and then I'll kind of give you the plans going forward from there. Shouldn't be that long today, just depending on how long it takes us to get through this stuff. Okay, so looking at number 13. So with number 13, it says simplify each expression. We are adding b plus 3 over 4b cubed plus 12b squared plus 3 over 4b cubed plus 12b squared. We are not, Kenny. Maybe one day if you have questions, but it shouldn't be this early. Okay, so if I am looking at this, problem, my first question is, in order to add fractions, my denominators have to be the same. In this case, my denominators are the same. So what I can do is I can just combine my numerators together. So it'd look like this. B plus 3 plus 3 over 4b cubed plus 12b squared. All right. So then from there, we just simplify what we have up top, and that would be equal to b plus 6 over 4b cubed plus 12b squared. And that is our final answer. Can't factor the numerator, so it makes no sense to factor this. So that is my final answer there. All right, jumping right here to 3 halves plus 2b over 4b squared minus 4b, looking at that problem. So jumping over here, so my question is, are my denominators the same? They are not. So I need to multiply them in order to make them the same. Okay? So that's where we did something like this right here. Remember, our first step was to rewrite the problem with space. So I say 3 over 2, leave some space, plus 2p over 4p squared minus 4p. So when your denominators are not the same, guys, you're going to have to write it, leave some space here, okay? And then if you remember what to do, Kenny, you will know whether to factor or not. because it's multiple choice, so you'll kind of see there like whether to factor or to not factor. All right, so from here, I'm going to multiply the left side, the left fraction, by the denominator of the second. So I need to multiply this times 4p squared minus 4p, and the top by 4p squared minus 4p. And I multiply the right equation by the denominator of the first one. So multiply all this by 2. When I distribute this right here, distribute, that's going to take me to 12p squared minus 12p over, distribute the 2 here, 8p squared minus 8p. And then I add that. Now I'd say 2p plus, or 2p times 2 is 4p. And then I know this right here is going to be the same as that. So I'll just say 8p squared minus 8p. All right, my denominators are now the same. They're now the same here. So that means I can just add my numerators together. Okay, so what I can combine in the numerator would be negative 12p plus 4p. Now I'm going to bring this right here so I can have some more space. So I'm going to go from here to like here. So that would be 12p squared negative 12p plus 4p, because we can bring those together, would be negative 8p. And that's all over. These two are the same, so we can put them together. 8p squared minus 8p. From here, we need to factor. So in order to factor this, what can I factor out of 12p squared minus 8p? I can factor out a 4p. So if I factor a 4p out of this, that will take me to 4p. If I factor a 4p out, I'm left with 3p there minus 2. And here, the bottom, I can factor out an 8p. So I factor out an 8p, and I'm left with p minus 1. From there, my p's cancel. And then these two, 4 will go into itself once. It'll go into 8 2 times. So I have 3p minus 2 over 2 times p minus 1. All right, let's move on to 15. So looking at question number 15. So I ask myself, when I'm adding or subtracting fractions, guys, I ask myself, are the denominators the same? If they're not, we have to make them the same. So we're going to say here, we're going to write it out with space. 3 over 2n minus 1, leave some space, plus 2 over 2n minus 3. From there, we're going to multiply the left side by the denominator in the of the right one. So we're going to multiply this times 2n minus 3, 2n minus 3, 2n minus 3. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So multiply the left equation by the denominator of the right, and multiply the right equation by the denominator of the left, which here, sorry for that little mistake, that would be 2n. I'm just going to write right here 2n minus 1 and 2n minus 1. Okay, so then from there, we then just need to multiply out. So let's multiply, distribute. So that would take us to 6n minus 9 over, we have to FOIL this. So FOIL, go first. That would be 4n squared. Go last. That would be negative 6n. Go inside. That would be negative 2n. And go last. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Okay. So then over here, now we say plus. Now let's go here. That 2, we got to distribute the 2 into that and into that. So that takes us to 4n minus 2 over, and it's going to be this same thing here, but I'm going to simplify this right here just so it's the same thing. So 4n squared minus 8n plus 3. Now, since these two are the same, since these two fractions are the same, since those two are the same, I can now add the numerators. So I can combine 6n and 4n, and I can combine negative 9 and negative 2. So I'm going to, again, bring this kind of up here. 6n plus 4n is 10n. Negative 9 minus 2 is negative 11. And that's all over that trinomial, 4n squared minus 8n plus 3. But you could see it like this as well, 10n minus 1. Now, this can't factor, the numerator can't factor, so we know nothing's going to cancel here. So, but you could see 10n minus 11 over and just take it back to the binomial times binomial, 2n minus 3 and 2n minus 1. And then looking at the answer key, the answer key has the bottom one. The answer key has this one, but you could see either one on your test, okay? Just know, hey, I could factor this. So if you don't see this, look for this, what we're trying to get you to do. All right, that is addition of fractions. Hadn't heard from you guys in a minute. So if you feel good with addition of fractions, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, something like that. If you have any questions, ask those questions right now. But please respond something in the chat box. Good Kenny, good Chris, good Ivan, good Jamie. Good Andrew, Catherine, Taylor, Molly, Andy, Jamie, good. All right, since I'm not seeing any questions, let's move to subtraction. So moving on to the subtraction problem right here. If I am looking at this subtraction right here, my first question when I'm adding or subtracting will be, are the denominators alike? So the denominators here, they are the same. So that means that we can just simply subtract the numerators. So since these are the same, I can just write the numerator together. So that would be n minus 1. But now this is where I urged you on our notes to be very careful. If this is a monomial in the numerator, then you can just attach the negative to it. But since it's a binomial, you need to write minus the quantity of n minus 1. Because you're going to have to distribute that. And then 8n minus 8. So then we distribute this, distribute, and I rewrite this, n minus 1, and that would be plus n plus 1. Or actually, I'm sorry, negative n. That would be, because a negative times a positive n would be negative n. And then that negative times that negative 1 would be a positive 1. And then that's all over 8n minus 8. Now, we go to this, n minus n. So 1n minus an n is just 0, so that cancels. And negative 1 plus 1, negative 1 plus 1, that would be 0. So I say 0 over 8n minus 8. Now, anytime 0 is on top, I use this little illustration, top, your answer is 0. So it doesn't matter what's in the denominator. If 0 is in the numerator, if it's on top, your answer is going to be 0. And your answer there is 0. Moving right along. To the other side. Number 17. All right, so let's look at number 17. Our first question is this. Are the denominators alike? They are here, 6n plus 6 and 6n plus 6. So that tells me this, that I can take this to n plus 1 and then minus, now keep in mind that's a binomial, so we need to put it in parentheses, n minus 3, because I'm going to have to distribute. And then I put that all over 6n plus 6 because the denominators are alike. Okay? We distribute. Then that's n plus 1. And now this would be minus n plus 3 over 6n plus 6. So n minus n, here again, cancels, leaving me with, I'm going to move this up here, 1 plus 3 is 4 over 6n plus 6. Now this can all be simplified because I can factor this denominator. I can factor a 2 out of this, or actually I can factor a 6, sorry. So that would be 4 over, factor a 6 out, that's 6 over n plus 1. And then 4 will go in, well, 2 will go into 4 2 times, and it will go into 6 3 times. So my final answer would be 2 over 3n plus 1. All right, I'm going to leave you with number 18 to do yourself. Okay, so I've worked, I guess, 4 of those. I've worked 4 of those, so you work the other one by yourself. Okay, work 18 on your own sometime. Okay, so then from there, let's jump down to 19. 19, it says solve each equation. Now, looking at this, I don't want to mess with these fractions, so I want to get rid of these fractions. Now, since this is a study guide, you should know the steps that we need to do. But the steps are as follows. Find the LCM of the denominators. So what is the LCM? Someone type that into the chat box. What's the LCM of 2, 3, and 19? Who can get, or excuse me, 2, 3, and 9? Remember the trick, always go to the largest. If that doesn't work, then you probably need to go to the number that largest is next multiple and see if they'll go into that. So yeah, good guess, Kenny, but 2 won't go into 9, so 9's not going to be the LCM. Andrew, we do not have spring break next week. No, you're fine. 18, yeah, exactly right. 18. So it should be 18. And again, if we had to think about that, 2 won't go into 9, obviously because it's odd. But then, so go to your bigger one and go to the next number. What's the next number after 9? What's the next multiple after 9? 18. Will 2 go into 18? Yes. Will 3 go into 18? Yes, 6 times. And of course, 9 will go into 18 twice. So we want to multiply everything we have. So I'm going to kind of mark that off. We want to multiply everything we have by 18. I'm going to distribute that 3 times. Okay? So here we have to write all of this out, guys. So it looks like this. 18 over 1. Remember what we're multiplying by. 18 over 1 times negative 1 over 3x. So that's the first distributive property written out. Plus 18 over 1 times 7 over 2x is equal to 18 over 1 times negative 76 over 9. All right. So from here, we just need to cross simplify. All right. So let's cross simplify. 3 will go into itself once. It will go into 18 6 times. So 6 times negative 1x would be negative 6x. Don't forget your negatives. Don't forget your variables. 2 will go into itself 1 time, and it will go into 18 9 times. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 7 is 63, so plus 63x. And then that is equal to 9 will go into itself once. It'll go into 18 twice. And then I say 2 times negative 76. Well, I know it's going to be negative. Negative 152. Okay. Negative 6 plus 63 would be 57. Positive 57x, and that's equal to negative 52. All right. And then we divide both sides by 57. I want to check the answer on this, make sure we're doing this right. Yeah, we're good. The answer to, so then we divide both sides by 57. And then x is equal to, and if you do 152 over 57 in your calculator, you should get 2 2/3, which is equal to 8/3, and that is what you're, and it's going to be negative, right? Negative 8/3. Let me just check that. Yeah. So negative 2 2/3 or negative 8/3. Your answer key has negative 8/3. All right, let's move up here to number 20. So looking at number 20, I don't know how 20 got on there. 20 is kind of pretty easy. So just negative n minus n would be negative 2n is equal to 7. Divide both sides by negative 2. This one's pretty easy. I don't know how it got on there. And that equals negative 7 over 2. All right. Looking over here at number 21. So looking at number 21, this brings us to something, we have monomials now, but with variables, so not just numbers. So we're not necessarily looking at, we are looking at, LCMs, but, within it's a little bit different to kind of imagine it as an LCM, but it is, but it's kind of hard to see that. But remember, you write down all denominators. So I have P and I have P squared. And my question is, I need something that will eliminate both of those. So I normally start with my biggest one and say P squared. I know that P squared will cancel P squared. Will P squared cancel P? And the answer to that is yes, it will. Because remember, P squared is equal to P times P. So yes, P squared will cancel that. So I just need to multiply everything by P squared. I distribute, I distribute, I distribute. Now keep in mind, remember that shortcut. When what you're multiplying by is the same as your denominator, we know those are automatically going to cancel out, so we can just write down our numerator. So that'd be 4 equals, same thing here. What I'm multiplying by is the same as my denominator, so I can just write 4 equals 1, and then minus, and then here's where I'm going to have to write it out. So P squared, I write as a fraction over 1 times 3P. I took care of the negative by putting it, just saying minus that, over P. So then from here, I cancel. That P cancels with one of those P's. So I'm left with 4 equals 1 minus 3P. P times 3 is 3P. The minus just drops. I then subtract 1 on both sides. And I get 3 equals negative 3P. I'm just going to bring that over here so we can get a better view of it. 3 equals negative 3P. And then I divide both sides by negative 3. The negative 3's cancel, and I get P is equal to negative 1. Yeah. Now I'm going to leave 22 for you. Again, just trying to give you some practice on paper here before we get too far. So 22, but I am going to discuss this with you. Write down all denominators, R, 2R, and 2R squared. Always start with your largest one, 2R squared. And ask yourself, will 2R squared cancel R? It will. Will 2R squared cancel 2R? Yes, it will. And then obviously it will cancel itself. Yeah? So that's what you need to multiply everything by is 2R squared. But I'm going to leave the rest up to you guys. Okay? And then let's look at number 23. Okay? Looking at 23 from there. Almost done, guys. Hang with me. So looking at number 23 from there. Look at our denominators. I have n squared and n. Always ask yourself, will the largest one, which is n squared, will that cancel n squared and n? Yes, it will. So I need to multiply everything here by n squared. So I distribute, distribute, distribute. Now when you're multiplying something, by the denominator, that we know that those are just going to cancel out, leaving us just the numerator. So that would be 1 plus, now this doesn't cancel out automatically, so let's write it out. I write this as a fraction, n squared over 1, because I'm multiplying it times a fraction, n plus 6 over n, and then equals to, and then notice here, n squared and n squared, so I can just simply copy that, the numerator down, n squared plus 2n minus 3. Now let's clean this up. So n will cancel with n here, with one of those n's. Remember, that's just n times n, so if you take off the square, you're then just left with 1n. So then I have 1, and then plus, now I like to write this down like this. I know some of you just multiply it then, and that's fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and write it out just so I make sure everyone's seeing everything that I'm doing. So then I distribute this, and I say 1 plus n squared plus 6n is equal to n squared plus 2n minus 3. Now, here's the very unique thing. I need to get this 1 over there to the 3, so I'm going to subtract it. I need this n squared with that n, so I'm going to subtract it from this side and get it over there. I need this 6n right here with this 2n, so I'm just going to subtract it. Now look at this. 1 minus 1 cancels. N squared minus n squared cancels. And 6n minus 6n cancels. So that leaves me with 0 on that side, which is what I want. Because anytime I see that squared, I need to be thinking quadratic equation, which means factoring. Now this is going to present something a little bit different. N squared minus n squared actually cancels. 2 minus 6 is negative 4n. And then negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. I'm going to bring that up here so we can have a little bit more clarity. So 0 is equal to negative 4n minus 4. So then from here, I just need to solve for n, so I don't have to factor at all. I can just say add 4 to both sides. 4 equals negative 4n. Divide both sides by negative 4. And I get n is equal to negative 1. Now it says to check for extraneous solutions. So if I was to plug this back in, will it make any of those 0? If it does not, then we're good. And obviously here, if you plug negative 1 squared is 1, negative 1 squared is 1. So it will not make any of those denominators 0. All right, looking at number 24. X squared plus 4x minus 5 over x minus 3 over x equals x plus 1. Okay, so notice right here, guys. Okay, notice that our only denominator we have is x. Over here, we don't have any denominators, so that's a good thing. So, but I still do my same procedure. Just say how can I cancel those two x's? So if I have x and x, what do I need to cancel that? Well, I can, anytime your denominator is the same, that's what you're going to multiply the whole thing by. So multiply the whole thing of 24 all by x. Now that's what makes this a little bit different, guys, is because we don't need to multiply this side because it doesn't have any fractions. But the rules of equations, or the laws of equations, said that what you do to this side, You have to do that side in order to balance it, okay? So even though this doesn't have fractions, we still have to multiply it times x because, again, the rules of equations. So I distribute it here, I distribute it here, I distribute it here, and I distribute it here. Now, of course, when you're multiplying something and the denominator is the same, they're just going to cancel. So I just can write down the numerator. X squared plus 4x minus 5. And then that x and x cancel. So just write down your numerator. Minus 3 is equal to, notice this, what's x times x? X squared plus x. So now let's subtract x squared from both sides. Let's subtract that x from both sides. Everything over here cancels, which will give me 0, which is what I want because I see x squared, so I'm thinking I need to factor anyway, so it has to be set equal to 0. But notice this, x squared minus x squared cancels. This is different. And then 4x minus x is 3x. And then negative 5, we can combine these. Negative 5 minus 3 would be negative 8. Just want to make sure we're right on this. 24. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so then from there, I'm just going to add this 8 to both sides. You get 3x equals 8. Divide both sides by 3. X is equal to 8 thirds. Right here is your answer. Voila. All right. Number 25. Because all of I was going to leave this to you by yourself, but because all of this is like canceling out these x squareds, I want to work this one just in case it looks a little bit different. So, looking at this, we got 2v and v. So if I bring that over here, 2v, let me scoot it over, 2v and v, always use your biggest one and say, will it cancel both of those? If it does, then go with that. Obviously here it's going to cancel both. If it didn't cancel both, you'd have to go back to the notes. Feel free to watch the video of the notes. Go back to those notes and say, all right, what do we do? You just have to create something that will cancel everything. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2v. So distribute, distribute, and then distribute way down there at the end. Okay, so then I look at this and I say, okay, here we go. 2v over 1 times 6 over v is equal to, and then 2v times all of this, 2v over 1 times v squared minus 3v minus 4 over v. And then notice this right here, guys. 2v and 2v are the same. So we know those automatically cancel. So I can just say minus v squared plus 8v plus 12. And sorry, that's a v there, not a 6. All right, so let's cross simplify. This v cancels with this v, and I'm left with 2 times 6, which is 12, is equal to this v and this v cancel. So I'm left with 2, and then times all that, so I put all that in parentheses, v squared minus 3v minus 4, and then minus v squared, and hey, I want to be careful here, guys, because it's minus this whole thing here, okay? It's minus this whole thing, so I need to put that in parentheses. Remember the whole rule, when that's not a monomial, that's a trinomial, so I need to say minus this whole thing. So I need to go ahead and distribute that on this step, and then that'll give me negative v squared minus 8v minus 12. From here, I need to distribute this now and get 12 is equal to 2v squared minus 6v minus 8 minus v squared minus 8v minus 12. So then the only thing I need to do is really subtract that 12 here to get it over here with this 12. And then I just need to combine everything else. So I can combine 2v squared and minus v squared. I can combine negative 6v and negative 8v. And then I'll deal with this. I'll put this down here once we solve all that. So we are at 0 on this side. 0 is equal to 2v squared minus v squared would simply just be v squared. Negative 6v minus 8v is negative 14v. And then notice this. That would be negative 24. But then we subtract another 8 from that, and that would be negative 32. So negative 12 minus 12 is negative 24. But then when we subtract 8 more from that, I'm at negative 32. I'm going to bring this over here. 0 is equal to v squared minus 14v minus 32. And here's the reason I did this problem, was because just in case you saw one that you had to factor. So what will multiply to be negative 32? Somebody type this in the chat box. What will multiply to be negative 32 but add to be negative 14? Yeah, 16 and 2. Very good, Kenny. 16 and 2. And the 16 would need to be negative, the 2 positive. There you go. Good, Kenny. Good, Jake. So then that would be v minus 16 and v minus 2, or excuse me, v plus 2 is equal to 0. And then we set each one of these equal to 0. V minus 16 is equal to 0. V plus 2 is equal to 0. And I get v is equal to 16 and v is equal to negative 2. And that is the correct answer. Now notice where I almost made my mistake. I almost made a mistake there because I forgot to distribute that negative. If we would have just wrote negative v squared plus 8v plus 12, we would have got a totally different answer. So remember, this right here, that is so important, guys. So important. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're good with the study guide. Give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you're good there. Vandy's good. Jamie, Chris, Andy, Catherine. Kenny's good. Andrew's good. Good to have you today in class, Andrew. Okay, so this is an important part. So I'm seeing that everyone's good. I think some people may be a little bit more behind, and if they are, that's fine. So this is an important part of of what's going to happen next week. So you want to listen up pretty good right here. Okay. So this is an online test. All right. So this is going to and I've created it through Canvas, but you have never taken a math test online through Canvas, to my knowledge. Now, if you have, you know, I guess it's my fault for not asking you. But I think you need to see what this looks like before you actually take your test. All right. So I have created for you, and I'll send you all these details in Canvas, like through a message, but I have created a practice test. It has 10 questions, okay? And I want you to complete the practice test for a grade. Each question on the practice test is worth 4 points. And it's questions that will be exact. That won't be the exact question on the test, but they're going to be questions that look exactly like it, just different numbers. So because this is so different, because you're not actually like doing this on paper like the study guide, I thought it would be important and valuable to you if you got a practice run at this test before you actually have a time test that you have to take on Canvas. So I have created a practice test in Canvas. It is under quizzes. It should be available to you. I'm not sure what time I had it started, but sometime today. I'm actually going to show you how to get to that. All right. That practice test is worth 40 points, and I'm going to put it under a quiz grade. Okay. So you complete the practice test for 40 points of a quiz grade. I just want you to get the practice of it so you know what to expect. You know what the test is going to look like, because the test is going to be worth 100 points under test category, which is going to be very valuable to you. Okay? Now, there is no time limit on this practice test, and you have 3 attempts to take it. All right? So if you get it, if you score the first time, if you get it the first time and you miss, 5 out of 5 questions, that means you got a 20 out of 40. I'm giving you multiple attempts to take the test, so just go retake it, and the highest grade will be your score for under the quiz grade for the practice test. Okay? So that is going to be due to me by Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. This upcoming Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. All right? So if I was to show you, again, I don't know how different Canvas is for me and you, okay? But if I was to show you my Canvas, here's what my Canvas looks like, okay? So my Canvas, I go in here. I'm just wanting to make sure you see this. I'm sure I can access it from my phone, okay? So Algebra 2, so I assume yours looks something like mine. You go to Algebra 2, you go to Quizzes, and in here is Chapter 4 Practice Quiz, okay? And then right now it's locked, but notice here, the due date is March 31st, 2020. That's Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. There's 10 questions, 40 points. There's no time limit, and you get 3 attempts. So work out each problem. Work it out. Figure it out. If you get I think it'll show you at the end what you got wrong. Just go back, find your mistake, and then redo it. Okay? I think this goes live at 11 o'clock. Okay? I think this goes live at 11 a.m. I'll be for sure to type it into your I'll type it into the message that I send you for the schedule for the week. All right? So that's going to be due on Tuesday. And then on Thursday will be your actual test in the same spot, same type question, same format, but the difference is it's going to say here that there's a time limit, and it'll say that you only get 1 attempt. Okay. So again, it's locked right now. The quiz is locked right now, just for the simple fact that I didn't want people taking it early before or after this. So it should release at 11 o'clock. You just need to complete that by Tuesday to knock that out. Okay. Feel free to use your study guide. So use your study guide. Let that help you, guide you there. Okay. And I'm just trying to get you used to this practice to like the test online, so you know what the questions look like, you know what the format is, so there's no confusion. So we're not like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Does that make sense to everybody here? Give me a thumbs up, or if you have questions, shoot some questions at me. Chris is good. Andy's good. Jamie's good. Kenny's good. Catherine's good. Vandy's good. Ivan's good. So we don't have any live classes on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, no live classes Monday or Tuesday. You need to knock out that practice exam. It is for a grade under the quiz category in our grade book. Okay, so no live class on Monday, no live class on Tuesday. You just got to knock that practice test out. Now, I'm going to urge you. Obviously, this is online. You have access to each other. I'm sure that you can call each other and stuff. But I promise you, don't expect to see the same. Now, on the practice test, everything's going to be, you're probably going to see the same type questions, but on your test, you will not. Okay? Some of you could see different questions. So, guys, I am trying to urge you to do this on your own, because what you see on that test, basically, I put 10 questions in, and basically it can pull from any question for any given student. So, again, I more care about your understanding that you're doing this. But just keep in mind, if you're out there trying to like meet up and trying to like knock this out together with someone, just know that it will be a little bit of a challenge, because you could have different questions. And then obviously there's a time limit to it. So that's going to play a factor into it as well. There's going to be 25 questions. If you don't have any other questions of me, you're free to be dismissed from this lecture. I thank you so much for joining me on this little bit rainy of a Friday. I'm glad you guys joined me today. A little bit different setup with me on the screen. I hope that was a little bit of a benefit, because it's not just like you're just hearing someone through a microphone. So I hope this was a little bit better experience for you. At least you get to see me, I guess. I don't really care about seeing you, so it's all good. I'm just joking. That's a joke. I plan to see you guys after spring break. I hope everything gets well, so we can go back after spring break. If you have no questions of me, feel free to be dismissed. Thank you so much for watching today. If you have some questions, I'll stay on for a few minutes. I have another class coming up at 11. But if you have any questions, ask me in the chat box or message me, whatever. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good weekend. Be careful. Make sure you get that practice quiz, and be looking for the schedule next week in Canvas. Thanks so much, guys. See you, Jamie. I am the ghost of Christmas past.